Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here with breaking news. We have had 5 M-class solar flares over the past 24 hours. These are the second strongest category of solar flare. Earth has already been charged up as a result of that light flux hitting the planet on the sunlit side of the Earth, but there's also now a solar storm inbound. So with our 131 angstrom view here, we can see these solar flares. We very likely could have more coming in over the next few days. We're right now in the middle of the superior conjunction of Mercury, and we see that often there is enhanced space weather and solar activity, solar flaring, solar storms during that planetary alignment with the planet closest into the sun, which also has a magnetic field just like Earth. So we're seeing this enhancement. Now the thing is, these solar storms have been a little deflected from exactly Earth center direct, even though they are along that central meridian, the sunspots, because we have this coronal hole here with an open magnetic field kind of deflecting it more to the east solar coordinate system, which means that the next 2 days are very dynamic and could also be very spicy, because as this continues to rotate, it'll still be in the Earth strike zone, as we call it. But even from over here, because of that coronal hole, if that dynamic remains, that could actually launch it more direct to our planet than these ones here. And well, we already have solar storms coming in. So we could be looking at a train of solar storms over the next week. Impact for this is expected around the 28th, 29th of August. Perhaps it comes in a little sooner, but basically after the partial lunar eclipse. Don't forget, we have that coming up on the 27th, so just in a couple days. So it's peaking at 9:12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, August 27th. If you're on the East Coast of the United States, that is 12:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's already a powerful energetic moment. Every full moon is, of course. You have more light simply being reflected from the moon into the Earth. It's not just visible light either. We see the visible light, but there's ultraviolet light, there's gamma ray light, there's X-ray light, there's radio frequencies. All the light is being reflected by the moon. It's one giant mirror reflecting light into our planet, charging up our planet with more energy. And when you get a lunar eclipse, well, that is when you have the moon perfectly pass into Earth's shadow, turning it into a blood red color. So that's very interesting. But we see the RAM dynamic pressure here. We see that most of this plasma and the pressure from the solar storm is more towards the east because of that deflection. They also show some of the RAM pressure here more towards the south, but in general, we are being hit by that. So we're going to have this solar storm impact, and then as a result, we'll have bigger swings in Earth's magnetic field. That's a geomagnetic storm. Here we see the shock wave produced by that 6.9 M-class flare, which was the strongest of this 5 flare sequence. It was a 1.7, a 1.9, a 1.0, a 1.8, and then a 6.9 M-class flare. So the first ones don't really produce these nice coronal shock waves, but you see that the 6.91 does, and maybe that's kind of like finally reset the system. You see a little bit of a difference there with just the plasma that's being held in this area after that 6.9, but it's very possible that we get more solar flares from this. And I think really the reason why is because we have this superior conjunction of Mercury that is unfolding. Here we see that this is Mercury right there on the far side of the sun. That's why it's so bright. We're looking at a coronagraph view here. So the sun is denoted by this white circle. We put a disk over it to block the light so we can see these solar storm outflows and emissions. And well, you can see that we're not yet at that perfect Mercury cazimi. But this solar activity really started up when Mercury first appeared in the coronagraph, meaning it is getting close to its superior conjunction. But we still have some time to go, not only the cazimi itself, but then on the other side. And those sunspots right now are on the central meridian. And even when they are a little bit offset from that, rotating to the other limb, again, that coronal hole could deflect anything that they send more towards Earth. So the next probably 3-4 days are looking pretty dynamic, and then as those sunspots rotate out and they get closer to the limb, if they stay active, they stay dynamic, we could be looking at radiation storms if we get a big launch there, because that's the magnetically conjugate point for the Earth. The magnetic field lines connect the limb of the sun to the Earth based on the solar wind spiral. So then we could be looking at a radiation storm. Right now, we're already at a 5x increase in our proton flux greater than 10 mega electron volts. That was from a long duration M-class flare from the limb back around the 21st of August. So we did start to see an enhancement on the 20th, but we nearly reached that S1 threshold, and it's taken a long time for this radiation flux to go down. So we're still about 5 times above normal, maybe even more like 6 or 7 times above normal. Normal values are usually about 0.15 to 0.2. We see that our red line there, greater than 10 mega electron volts, is 1.24. And mega electron volt is just a rating for the energy of a particle, and it's really more based upon the speed of the particle, because a proton has the same mass basically no matter what. So the faster it's going, the closer to the speed of light, then the more energy it has. So we see this with our proton flux here, and we can look at our X-ray flux right here to see this sequence of solar flares that have been charging up the Earth. And in general, Earth's ionosphere is more plasma, driving stronger plasma convection that induces electric currents in the oceans. It also changes and alters tropospheric weather. It induces electric currents into Earth's surface, like the crust, the lithosphere. We've been having lots of earthquake activity. How these stronger electric currents passing over fault zones and plate boundaries influence that. Volcanic fields. We just had a big volcanic eruption from Umbea volcano, Vanuatu, sending an ash cloud up to 15,000 meters or 15 kilometers, well into the stratosphere. You know that's a big one as a result. So these are the 5 solar flares that have just happened over the past 24 hours. A little bit of a cool off period here. Here is the other sequence of solar flares that occurred. There's that long duration limb event which triggered that near radiation storm. These solar flares there were also from the same group that is responsible for these. So yeah, the past week has been pretty dynamic, as you can tell energetically. And well, we have the lunar eclipse coming up. We have the superior conjunction of Mercury, meaning that we'll have that perfect Mercury, Sun, Earth, Moon alignment all on the 27th. And then right afterwards, we get this first solar storm impact to come in, and we'll start to get these big magnetic field swings. So the end of August in general is looking dynamic. How does that relate to then volcanic activity, earthquake activity, and tropospheric weather activity? That remains to be seen, but in general, think more volatile, more dynamic, more unexpected. That's in general kind of what we see. Forecasting earthquakes and volcanic eruptions is very, very difficult. It's a very new science, you could say. It's not just science, it's also an art form. Someone that tries to do this to the best of my ability, yet they use a little bit of intuition and more. Mainstream science is a little behind on the interconnections that actually do exist between the different systems on our planet, between the sun and our planet, the different planets within our solar system together, interstellar cosmic forces, all that. But we can feel this. There's already, of course, a full moon effect. Talk to any ER nurse, right? And they'll tell you full moons are crazy. They don't want to work that shift. Imagine now it's a partial lunar eclipse, 95% coverage, really going deep into Earth's umbra, that shadow, turning a blood red color. Crazy things happen around eclipses. We're right now in the middle of eclipse season. We had the total solar eclipse back on the 12th of August. This is the next eclipse coming up, this one being a lunar eclipse. A lot is happening right now, potentially more to come in, but the big thing I'm reporting on right now for you is this solar storm that launched out, and we don't know exactly when this is going to be coming in. This model is indicating around the 28th, 29th of August. The NASA space weather model is showing a little bit earlier than that, around 10 a.m. Universal Time on the 28th. So anytime in that window, basically right after the partial lunar eclipse is when I expect this to come in. And we see this also very clearly having launched out with our stereo A imagery. So this is a probe that we have ahead of Earth's orbit looking at the sun from the side. So you can imagine the Earth is over here. Here is that solar storm launching out. You also see a big plasma filament storm kind of launched directly south. That's interesting. We have the largest known comet directly underneath the inner solar system right now. This is UN 271. It's like 100 plus kilometers in diameter. The thing's a monster. It's having its closest approach to the sun near the orbit of Saturn around 2031, 32, 33. So that's kind of interesting that it blasted straight down. We also see at the very end of this, a new solar storm having just launched to the far side, right? So we see actually there's been a lot of activity, not just Earth direct, but just in general across the sun, there's been more activity. A clear example of how these superior conjunctions of Mercury, when the two inner planets with magnetic fields form that alignment, things get a little wild on the sun. If we look at our space weather timeline viewer, here's where this Mercury Cazimi really makes itself known, as in my opinion, okay? because we have August right there. We have August. We had some significant space weather here, this S1 radiation storm. We forecasted that actually for the end of July, beginning of August, way back in May. All right, so that was a successful space weather forecast months in advance. But look at how solar activity really died down. We had nothing notable. And then the moment Mercury starts to swing in for its superior conjunction, we start getting these solar flares. We get this radiation storm. And so, yeah, things are active right now. They are popping. Everything is going. That is your update for today. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. Please smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Subscribe to stay up to date. I release videos almost daily. If you want to stay really in the know as it relates to earthquake activity, volcanic activity, space weather, planetary alignments, all the things and more, I am your guy. So hope to see you around. Wishing you a great day. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.